welcome to the One Soccer Nation podcast. I'm your host, Kareem Rae. Today, I'm excited to be joined by a special guest, Alexis Boulos. Alexis, thank you for being here. To kick things off, could you please introduce yourself to our audience?
Sure, of course, Kareem. It's great to be here. My name's Alexis Boulos, and I'm the general manager of Union Omaha.
Amazing. So my favorite question to ask, my first one is, how did you get involved in the beautiful game?
So it's an interesting it's an interesting series of events. My background is not in soccer. I've been in professional and collegiate sports operations for the better part of 20 years. And I was helping manage as the director of operations for the PGA Tour event that's here in Omaha. And the sports community professionally and collegiate in Omaha is very small. So Marty Cordero, who was our president, and I had run into each other on a number of occasions in Omaha, sports related and otherwise. We had a couple of mutual friends, and when they were looking for a new general manager, they asked if I was interested in the position, and it was something that was very unique and had a lot of growth opportunity for our community, and so I jumped at the chance. It's been great, and my kids are both of my children play soccer, so my first exposure to the beautiful game has been through my children, which has been a wonderful learning opportunity. And we were actually in the stands on the sideline when Union Omaha won their first championship. So that was exciting to go from being a fan with my kids to being behind this desk. So it's been great.
Nice. So, shout out to Gary Green. I've had him on the podcast previously. He's the one that hooked this one up as well, connected us to. You assisted with sending this jersey over. Hopefully, you guys could see it. The Union Omaha. We're building up on the collection. We got a few in the back and a few scarves, so we're working on it, guys. But with saying that, there's two stars on the jersey. So I want to ask you, what year did you start with the club? And then I'll go to the stars after.
So last year, 2024 was my first season with the team. I started in January during we'll call it the off season, which really is not an off season. We just don't play during that time. But so I started last January. So it was obviously an exciting time. I would say within the first 72 hours, we announced plans for the new stadium. We had all kinds of things happening from a roster standpoint at that time. We announced our schedule for the season. So I kind of hit the ground running. So it's been a very exciting 18 or so months now into my second season here. So obviously with the championship last year, it was an amazing ride. It was very busy. I could never have imagined that my first year as general manager would be what it was. So very exciting.
Nice. And do you have do you have a favorite sport?
So I played basketball in high school. I worked in the sports information office at the University of Missouri for the basketball team in college. So basketball has always been kind of our family sport. My brother went to KU, I went to Missouri. We were big basketball fans. So when neither one of my children decided that that was their passion, I had to learn a new sport, and it's been great. We love watching all kinds of athletics in our house. We're a very sports oriented family and always have been. So if anything's on, I'll watch it. I was learning about the Tour de France the other day, watching cycling on TV. So, but basketball was really what I enjoyed playing myself, and can still hoop a little bit if challenged.
Nice. I love playing basketball. We play it all the time out here. It's good fitness, it's good fun, it's competitive, lots of points. It's very active versus soccer. It's a
Yeah.
bit longer, 90 minutes, less points, less goals. But with saying that, since being with the club from 2024 to date, you guys have won back to back, and that there's a reason why there's two stars on here. So could you share what that's been like being a part of a winning club, creating a winning culture, from in order to win on the field, there has to be good performance as well as on the front office, which is off the field. So could you share a little bit behind the scenes and the success of the Union Omaha?
Sure, absolutely. The club itself from the start has had amazing success on the field. When they started during COVID, they announced in 2019, first season during COVID, had to miss that championship because of COVID. They tested positive and weren't able to play. I'm guessing there'd be a third star on there if I'm being honest, if we hadn't missed that match. So it's really been from the very start, Gary Green and the ownership of the team, Marty Cordero here as our president, they really led from the beginning with finding coaching staff and players that were motivated, passionate, and excited to be in Omaha. So, they started there. There's other things that happen along the way. Gary is very passionate about nutrition and culture. And so he puts a lot of his emphasis. And so in the front office and with our healthcare team with Nebraska Medicine, we also put a lot of emphasis on that as well. So the food that they eat, our partnerships in our medical team, and then we have a living arrangement that is maybe non-traditional. I don't know how all teams do it, but we have a partnership with Green Slate Management, and our guys all live in Blackstone. They live in a series of a couple of different apartment buildings, so they're all in the same neighborhood. It's a very family-oriented environment. We feed them breakfast and lunch when they're training with us, pre-match meals, post-match meals, things that go above and beyond the CBA so that they are hopefully eating well and living well together. So there's those types of things that from the start have really encouraged the kind of community and growth that exists here. So it was really great for me to just kind of walk into a place that had those things already here. And we're continuing to work on building partnerships from a community standpoint to get the guys involved. We've done a clinic with North Star Foundation, and they love getting to know the kids there in those programs. They did rock climbing there one afternoon. Um, Coach Dom and now Coach Vinny really focus a lot on the team building as well. So they'll go do a ropes course. There's all kinds of things. They went and played volleyball the other day. So there's lots of things that I'm sure other organizations do as well, but it just seems to be a very high focus on culture, but also on continuing to maintain that positive environment. And we had two of our players. We have three players that are from Ghana, and we have two of them that came with me to a luncheon on Wednesday because we had a dignitary from Parliament that happened to be at my Rotary. And I brought them along and I told them, and I kind of reiterate with them that we want to know who they are as people outside of soccer and help them to find ways to be comfortable in Omaha, be part of the community, and get engaged in the things that they're excited about outside of soccer. So I think those are just some of the ways that we try and focus on the things that are off of the pitch.
Amazing. You've mentioned many key ingredients to the success of the club. One of my big takeaways was the CBA going above and beyond for those that may not know what CBA stands for, correct me if I'm wrong, it's the USL's collective bargaining agreement, correct?
Correct. Yep.
So
Correct.
that's a strong point that I took away. So that's amazing to hear. With saying that, the second point was the human aspect, the importance of building the human relationship. Besides the on-field, the importance of the off-field interaction and engagement, and then obviously it's locally focused community building. So many great points there. With saying that, I want to. It's something that's popping up in my mind is that I've seen on LinkedIn. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful renderings of a brand new stadium. Could you share a little bit about what's going on there and some behind the scenes?
Sure, there's a lot going on. I had two calls on it today, in fact. So it's a process, right? As a team, there have been challenges as it's related to the stadium. We had a land announcement when I started in January. We had some complications with that process, and we have now moved on to a new piece of property that we're hopeful by the end of the summer. We can talk about that development a little bit more. But it is a very high priority for the organization for us to get our own home. We understand that for us to grow as an organization, we need a home that we can come to play. But in order for us to grow, whether it's with a women's team, with an academy, and just being able to have a home where we can have the community come and visit us for community events, state soccer, international friendlies, anything like that is extremely important for us in our growth for the next 5-year plan, right? So I would say that we say this a lot. We had team talks a few weeks ago, which is something else that we do in the community so people can come ask questions. We talked about how, this process is really moving quickly, that when we have an announcement, it will be more of here is the land, but here's also where we are in the process from a design and perspective. So um, we are constantly reminding our fan base, our staff, and the team that we're not just sitting on our hands waiting to make an announcement that, oh, this is going to be what's happening in the next 5 years. We're still really, really hoping for a 27 season in a brand new home. It could be 28, but there's still not snow on the ground. So there's time for us to get this in the last quarter. So we're hopeful that we can get that announcement made soon. It's a partnership, in the community with the city and landowners and the team and investors in the community and nonprofits. And in order for us to do this the right way, it's taking us time. And I think in the end, that will be appreciated that we went through the process the right way. And we thought about the whole and not just creating a place for us to play soccer.
Absolutely. And it has huge impacts on the P&L.
It does.
Uh, how long have you guys been in this process for? What's how long have you guys been working at it, and what's the projected timeline?
I would say that a new stadium has been in the works for leadership and for ownership since they announced the team. They knew that Warner Park was not going to be our home forever. And so I would say that the process has probably been the last 5 years. So prior to my arrival, there were several years of planning as it related to the land that was announced in January when I came. So there's, schematic designs and all kinds of things that go into it. So I would say from our timeline, we're hoping that we can get shovels in the ground here before the end of the year, so that we could potentially have a 27 season in a new home. So that's kind of the timeline we're looking at. I keep saying 60 to 90 days, we can hopefully make an announcement, but unfortunately, it's outside of our control. I would love to be able to say from the hilltops where this land is and where we are in the process, but until we have the cooperation of everybody involved in the city and all those things, we can't really let the cat out of the bag quite yet.
Understood. Well, hopefully soon, fingers crossed. Um,
Yes.
again, it's a positive, huge impact on P&L. With saying that, how has your foundation in broadcast journalism uniquely shaped your ability to craft Union Omaha's story and authentically engage with fans and the broader soccer community?
I don't necessarily know that it's broadcast. I would say that I'm do okay here, right? I'm not afraid to talk to people. I'm not afraid to be in front of the camera. I'm not afraid to tell a story. And I think it more comes down to the communication piece. I think it's more about finding out what else we can talk about besides soccer. Because what we're finding is that while our fan base is an amazing group of community members, there's not quite enough of the super fans in Omaha quite yet. And so we need to find a way to find fans that want to come, casual fans, families that maybe haven't experienced soccer yet or haven't had the opportunity to come to a soccer match with us and get them here so that they can understand and see and love it as much as we do. And that's through communication of the fun that they can have here, different opportunities. Saturday is Hispanic Heritage Night. We had Pupsville on the pitch on Wednesday, so people can bring their dogs and come sit in the berm, which has been a really fun activation for us. So I would say my ability to try and help us communicate a different message outside of the soccer and athletic focus has been key. And I would say that comes from the journalism background, but that also comes from me being a part of the community. Um, I was born and raised in Omaha. I went away for college, lived away for about 10 years, and then decided this was where I wanted to raise my family. And so moved back, and it's been a great opportunity to change um, my experiences as well in the community by being a part of Union Omaha. So I would say communication, messaging is really great. and community activation. So we try and get the guys out as much as we can so that the community can get to know them as well outside of soccer, whether that's at Fontenelle Forest. They're going to go to Kiewit Luminarium and go to the Science Center for a little while and have a team building, but so that they can start to understand the community too, and people can see them out and about and know that they're here and they're part of what we do in Omaha.
Very nice. Alexis, we have a big event coming up, the 2026 World Cup. We just had the 2025 FIFA Club World Cup, which was huge. Next year is a big year. On top of that, you have the Olympics in LA in 2028, and potentially a 2031 Women's World Cup, potentially hosted by the US. With saying that, what is the plan for Union Omaha for next year?
You know, growth, hopefully. Hopefully with what happens with all of the fan base and international soccer and the spotlight kind of being on us, I'm hopeful, and I think the league is hopeful that US soccer will continue to grow. People will start to get more exposed to the game. They'll get more exposed to fandom, and that you can love a team across an ocean, and still be a fan or wear a jersey for your favorite club when you don't live in Omaha, right? And I think for the league and specifically for Union Omaha, it's going to be about the summer of soccer. It's going to be about getting those kiddos who are watching hours and hours and hours of soccer at home out to a match, who maybe have never seen Union Omaha. Those international fans that maybe don't quite have an appreciation for US soccer yet or haven't been exposed to USL League One soccer, we want to get them out here. We're hopeful that we can have some watch parties when we're not playing. We're hopeful that we can get some of our international guys to engage in maybe some fun interactions with their international teams and fandom there so that we can kind of grow our fan base that way too. Because I think having people understand that the guys that play for our teams, some of them play for their national teams as well. Some of them are from different countries and have played in those countries and have and are fans of their home teams as well. And so I think just the awareness of soccer and having that grow in the United States is going to be incredibly impactful for all of the teams.
Understood. With saying that, the question that comes to mind is, what's been the biggest challenge you faced so far at Union Omaha?
Oh, that's a loaded question. I would say, well, it's twofold. So, coming from the golf world, the PGA Tour, those players are not on contract with the tournaments. They come in, they come out. We're responsible for them for a week. I would say that one of the biggest challenges for me has been adjusting to having a brand new family of about 30 young men that I need to make sure are cared for, fed, and watered, but that it is more about their living situations, their contract management, their support systems, their mental health. All of the things that come into cultivating a good relationship with a team, multiply that by our squad. So we've got, 27 guys, coaching staff. We've got mental health professionals also that are helping with the team, but making sure that the eye is on them. Yes, they're the product, if you will, but they're human, and we need to understand who they are and what they want to do and how we can support them in the best way we can. So that has been a challenge because that was outside of the scope of what I normally had to deal with in sports operations prior to this, not being a part of a team sport. So that's been a challenge, but it's been a great one. I've learned a lot about the CBA, about contracts, about international visas for our players, and making sure they have what they need. So that's been a challenge. And then I would also say not having a soccer background does not always lend itself positively to everyone's response to me being in a leadership position. So there's sometimes an assumption that I don't necessarily know what I need to know in order to be successful in soccer. So it's been a challenge, but it's been a good one to kind of prove people wrong that you don't need to have played the sport to understand the business of sport.
1,000%. I've seen it time over time over time. where would you say you've gotten that pushback per se from you should have a soccer background in order to be in the position that you're in? Who's that?
Um, I would say
Not I'm not
I
looking for
would
names.
No, I know. No, I know. I would say it just happens pretty regularly with interaction with other teams, other coaches, um eh, when it comes to dealing with agents, and maybe them not believing that I understand what their players need, even though they're the ones that are here and I'm helping them in the day to day. Um, but I think that the biggest challenge with that is proving to them that it makes no difference. And I think that my understanding of how the business should work, but also understanding that some of these young men maybe haven't been guided in the way that they need to understand tax law and how payroll works and HR and things like that that maybe as athletes they haven't been guided on, and it's I'm hopeful that through the things that I've experienced that I'm able to help kind of transition them that way and guide them a little bit so that they can understand a little bit better what is really out there after soccer.
Absolutely. Well, glad to hear it. You're proving them wrong, and I'm looking forward to learning more from you, especially on the CBA side. I've it's a long document. It's about 100
It
plus
is.
pages. I haven't gone through it yet, but we'll surely revisit when I get a few things off the plate. With saying
Yeah.
that, um, uh, I appreciate you sharing those points. Um, I want to know on the positive side, what has been the the best experience that you've experienced so far in the beautiful game to date?
There've been so many. Um, I often just find myself, on match day just kind of walking the concourse, at the stadium, just to make sure everything is as it should be, right? I don't oftentimes get the opportunity to watch soccer. So I would say probably the most fantastic moment for me was when we played Sporting Kansas City last season. We played at UNO Caniglia Field because there was a baseball match going on. There was a baseball game going on at Warner Park, so we weren't able to host the US Open Cup match at home. So we were at home at Caniglia. It's a smaller it's a smaller facility. We maxed it out over 5,000 fans. The neighborhood, it was walking distance within the kind of Midtown Omaha neighborhood. So people were just walking from their homes, walking from the dorms at UNO to come watch the match. And for us to be able to continue to compete with MLS clubs at that level, with our squad in our neighborhood and in our hometown, um, the atmosphere was electric. Fans from all over the country were there. People had come from further than Kansas City just to watch us play them, and to see our guys who, when you look at our salary cap versus what Kansas City is paying their squad, and for them to be able to continue to play head to head with that team in that moment, was incredibly special. And it shows me, and hopefully it showed many others, that regardless of the league that you're playing in, all of these guys are immensely skilled, and they have a passion for the game and the coaches have a passion for the game. And it took an immense effort for that to even happen from the front office staff, operations, our combination effort with UNO, marketing to get all of those bodies in there. I mean, it was electric. And so that right for now, I mean, the championship was wonderful. It was an amazing night. But for now, I would say the match against Kansas City, um, at Caniglia Field was pretty amazing.
The word you used, it was electrifying. How do I pronounce it?
Mhm.
Electrifying? Am I saying it right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Am I saying it right? Is it electrifying?
Electrifying?
Yeah,
Did
I
I
feel like
make
I'm pronouncing it
No,
properly.
no, it makes it sounds funny when you say
Uh,
it.
no, powerful word. And I've had that experience at many different stadiums I've been in the US and in England, especially England. And it's such an amazing feeling. So,
Yeah.
Alfred, you've mentioned Union Omaha as USL One. Is there any other franchises that you guys have? USL Two, USL Super League, or is it just
We
USL?
don't. We are League One. And as part of that growth and expansion with the new stadium, the addition of a women's team, whether that's W League, we don't know what that looks like yet. And that's part of the growth plan in addition to an academy. So right now we're League One and that keeps us plenty busy. And the hope would be as well that we'll move up to championship when we get our new stadium.
Understood. In shaping Union Omaha's long-term vision, how do you balance the urgent demands of on-field success with the imperative of sustainable commercial and community growth?
I would say that well, two things. So as part of this new growth strategy, we have hired a sporting director. It'll be announced next week. Um, and he'll be joining us to focus more of the attention on the on-field to take some of that off of my plate so I can immediately focus more attention on the marketing and the community and the growth of the business and the stadium process. So I would say that the biggest component to that is that we reflected and took a moment to realize that what was happening day to day, I needed a support system in order to help us continue to be successful on the field because our coaches are amazing at what they do, but they need support as well from a recruiting standpoint, from contracts and visas and all of those additional things that fall under sporting and operations that I was managing that were probably not the things that I was brought on to do, but I was learning and that was part of the process. And now we know to prioritize what's happening on the pitch, we need another adult in the room with me to help guide that. And so we have a new sporting director coming on board. Super excited to announce that. And have a new member of the team that can really focus the efforts on the field. That way I can focus with Marty and Gary and the rest of our ownership on the continued growth process for Union Omaha.
Is that individual local to market?
No.
Okay. I have
And you know what? After August 18th, I will happily have him be on your show because I think you would really enjoy talking to
okay, sounds good.
him.
I have another challenge question, but it's related
Okay.
with operation. So, what are some of the most complex behind the scenes operational challenges of running a USL League One club that fans rarely see or hear about, and how have you innovated to overcome them?
Oh, wow. I would say it's from that perspective. So a League One club, our staff is small. So, we do everything.
How
And
many
I do mean everything.
how many people?
Well, I have in the front office, I've got two interns, one, six, and that's not including, so we are a little bit of a different situation because our baseball and soccer um, was at one point owned by the same organization and a year ago sold. So Gary owned both teams. So over the past year, we have gone through a process of kind of splitting the shared staff. So that includes operations and grounds. So right now we have operations and grounds are shared. So they're not in the front office, but they are shared between baseball and soccer. So some of the operational stuff, like we do the field boards. I mean, I had three changes. I changed my clothes four times on Wednesday because I had, interviews and I had that meeting with the parliamentarian from Ghana and we did field boards. So I needed a different change of clothes from that and then game day attire because obviously, I had sweat through everything else while I'm being out on the field doing the field work. So, we do field boards, we do the flooring, we do all those things on a game day. And there's six of us plus a few operations folks that help with grounds. I'm during the field flip. Our grounds crew is amazing. and they do an amazing job making sure that we are following all the standards for US Soccer and League One. But I have to keep my eye on that ball just to make sure that I'm communicating with the grounds person. I'm communicating with Coach Vinny to make sure when they practice out there that they have everything that they need, but that we're also in compliance because as a flipped field, it does create its own set of challenges with new sod and markings and the constant movement of our equipment, the goals and the condition of the goals. So that's just like a teeny tiny piece of all the things that go just on game day. And then, outside of that, I would say one of the most challenging things that people don't really understand is the schedule, especially in a shared stadium situation. As the league grows, they're adding teams are moving up. So the number of games that we will need to host um, as a home team has changed significantly in the last 2 years, 3 years. So when it comes to us marketing and selling our season ticket packages, and not quite knowing how many games we're selling, becomes a challenge, as well as knowing what our schedule is going to be. So we have to balance how many days baseball is here when they're away, and then factoring in the amount of time that it takes for us to flip the field and then take the field back to being baseball before and after. So that's why this season we were away quite a lot at the very beginning of the season, which was a challenge because of baseball, and we hosted state baseball for high school here. And we can only start games at the end of April, plus or minus, because of the weather in Nebraska. I would hate to have to shovel snow in order to get us to be able to play on the field. But because the grass won't take during a flip if it's too cold. So there's a lot of things that operationally really create challenges for us. But we are very fortunate with UNO and Creighton to be able to have places where if we can't host a US Open Cup, we have somewhere to go. If we need to do a couple of matches at one of those facilities, we have that flexibility. So, fans see our schedule changes and they see the complications, but I don't necessarily know that they understand how many months we take to plan all of this. We've been scheduled planning already, as we look at the minor league baseball schedule and where we're going to be for 26. So, you know, that might be the most complicated piece that people don't understand, but I have a monthly call with the leadership from our supporter groups, and um, they kind of get some inside baseball that I try and give them as much information as I can so that they better understand what really happens in the front office, so that sometimes they can maybe give my staff some grace when it comes to things, challenges that they're facing or that they see us not addressing in the way that they might like, so that they can kind of understand exactly what it takes to make each decision that we make in the front office.
Yeah, that's thank you for sharing that. That's if I could visualize everything that you're saying. And I got to see a little bit of a field switch or field flip between
hmm
Rhode Island. I got a chance to go to get a tour of the stadium with Dan Krober and watch a game. It was the Rhode Island FC versus Portland, Maine, Hearts of Pine.
Hearts of Pine, yeah.
It's fine. Those two teams played. It was a great game on field, but so the game was on a Friday, and then the next day on the Saturday was a rugby game, so I got to see them switch it. So it was a 1 day flip. So the
hmm
question I have for you is, do you guys flip them in 1 day, or does it take a bit longer for you guys to switch them over?
No, it's 72 hours. So the baseball team played on Sunday night. Um, and our sod crew came in after that game. And they have to take out a certain amount of dirt in the infield, and baselines so that the sod can lay flat and even with what is already on the surface. Um, so there's prep work that happened on Sunday, and then the sod company comes bright and early Monday morning, lays sod on Monday, and makes sure that the seams are good. It gets watered, and then we were able to train um, Tuesday, which does not always happen. and then we had our game on Wednesday. So it's a significant process. After the game on Saturday, the sod company will be here at 10 o'clock p.m. to start tearing out the sod because baseball then has a homestand starting on Tuesday of the following week. So it is it's definitely a process when you're involving tearing out old sod and putting new sod in. They have to aerate if we're here for too long. So when we have a homestand where we've got 2 or 3 games, they have to treat the grass in order to make sure it stays and isn't basically just laying on top of the dirt and sliding around because it's dangerous and we want to make sure that the guys get the quality surface that they deserve to play their matches on. And knock on wood, so far this season, we haven't had any major issues. And the ref crews have been happy with the product that we've been able to provide this season. We have our mound is retractable. So that was one of the updates they made to the stadium when they opened when they started Union Omaha was the pitcher's mound is retractable. So that helps. But we did have a match last year where the hydraulic system broke and it was touch and go whether or not we were going to get the sod over the mound in time, but it all worked out.
That's good. Um, you mentioned a little bit of switching between stadiums. How has that been? How have fans responded to that?
Our fans have been very open-minded. I will say that. Since the beginning of Union Omaha, they have utilized the other facilities, whether it was Creighton University or University of Nebraska Omaha, in order to be able to have as many matches at home as possible. We've always wanted to be able to continue to participate in the U.S. Open Cup because that is something that is important to U.S. soccer. It's important to our fan base, and quite honestly, we've been very, very successful at our level with playing clubs that are leagues ahead of us. And we're the only League One team who has beat an MLS team, and we've beat multiple. So, it's one of those things that we're proud of. And so we want to be able to participate in those and have those teams come to us and be able to host those matches. So, we're fortunate that we have those partnerships. We're fortunate that we have great facilities in Omaha. They're able to be flexible and host us. And it's complicated, but we appreciate them and the operations of it and the ticketing and all of those things that go into it are a challenge, but our fans have been gracious and have been flexible and have shown up for all of those things.
Yeah. One of the things I'm really enjoying about podcasting and really focusing on soccer in the US, specifically USL, is I'm learning a lot about USL history here, right? You just mentioned that you guys have been the first club to beat an MLS team with the light blue
Mhm.
jersey. Atletico Dallas is the first USL championship market they're the first ownership group to go into a market with an existing MLS club. So I've been learning a little bit of history here.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at the history of soccer, USL is young. It's a growing business and it's extremely exciting to be a part of a startup in athletics, and to watch the process as we grow and to be a part of the process as we grow and learn what works and what doesn't and how to help other clubs be successful as we have new franchises coming on every season. And being able to be a support system from them, but also being able to learn. I mean, you mentioned the Hearts of Pine. They're killing it when it comes to their fan engagement when it comes to community and how they interact with their fan base. And so there's things to learn from these, new clubs as well, because they've been sitting back and watching and taking their time in becoming a part of the system. And it's great to see.
Yep. I was just out in Spokane, Washington for the USL Expansion Summit. And, during the panel discussions and presentations, Hearts of Pine always comes up because of the
Hmm.
branding is done so well. And,
Yep.
funny enough, I actually got to meet Gabe. But before that, I'd watched a few YouTube videos on the club.
Sure.
They have a show going on of documentation. And funny enough, I met Gabe when I was in Rhode Island. So I'm working on getting him on the podcast. And long story short, I had a call today with an investor from Chicago, and he's invested in multiple clubs. He's a part of one Knoxville and USL One,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
part of other clubs as well in England. And he was saying today that there should be a USL One club and championship club in every market. And for some markets, it could be multiple. Like Texas is massive. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's exciting where soccer is and where soccer is going in the next few years. And to your point, soccer is young. I'm not too sure how many years the USL has been operating, but I know for the MLS, for example, they've been around for 30 years versus in the UK, the EPL has been around, the English Premier League has been around for 100 plus years. So there's a
Right.
lot of growth, lots.
We'd love to have more in the Midwest because our travel schedule is bananas right now. It would be great if we could get some more clubs kind of in that central corridor because really Madison is it for us. It's not it, Texas is next, but it's still a haul to get down there.
Yeah. And that affects players, right? That takes a toll on
Oh,
players.
absolutely. Because we're not flying private. Our guys are on commercial airlines, so when there is a delay, when there's weather. I mean, that's another thing. You talk about challenges. My phone is constantly ringing when our operations manager is dealing with travel issues and whether or not we're going to get on our connections as we try and get across the country. So many other teams have the same issues when Maine is trying to go to play in Spokane or vice versa. Like the coasts are great, but it's very challenging when you're trying to manage the travel on commercial airlines for 30 plus people to get to one place in time for your match.
Yeah. And the toll on the players' bodies and the recovery process
Yes.
of after getting off the plane. It's funny. I thought I would have loved traveling because I wanted to travel so much. And then there was a time where I had done it. I was traveling so much through vehicle and plane. I was like, whoa, my body's not feeling it. Right?
No.
It's good.
No, yeah. And it makes nutrition a challenge. I mean, an altitude, when the guys go play at altitude, whether it's in Colorado or elsewhere, we had a match for our first US Open Cup match was in Colorado and they traveled. Well, we got a huge snowstorm. And there was no chance we were getting out. So they were gracious enough to be able to postpone the match for us. We weren't televised um, because there was no way we were getting out. We had a blizzard, everything was shut down, and it went straight to Colorado. So they got it too, and it was just one of those things where like there you have to throw your hands up and it's out of your control, and you hope that you can keep the guys hydrated. You hope that they're up walking around and stretching. And if you can get them home and get a good night's sleep and leave the next day, that helps too. But it takes its toll for sure.
Yeah. I feel bad for clubs on the west side because there's not a lot. I mean, most of the clubs are on the
No.
east side. Um, if you guys look at the map, with saying that, um, on the private side, we're working in two markets right now. On the private side, we're trying to get a club in Texas and in New Hampshire. Facilitating that, we've been working on the relationship with USL for the last 3 years, so since 2022. Um, but with saying that, our goal is to, assist with that, and hopefully we could as USL continue to expand, that challenge that you had mentioned right there
Yeah.
will not be a challenge soon in the next 5 years with all these clubs coming online. Um, with saying that, we talked a lot about players, you assisting players, and your phone ringing all the time. But how do you how do you manage all this, and how do you take care of your?
Um, well, that's a really great question. I don't take care of myself very well. I'm a single mom of two. So my my on the priority list, it's my kids, my real kids, and then my team. So there's not always a lot left for me. I do a lot of volunteer work in the community. I'm a part of a lot of nonprofit organizations locally in Omaha. So that's extremely important to me as well. So I I don't do a great job of prioritizing things for me. Our mental health doc, Andy, comes in to check on me every once in a while, and he's like, "Hey, how are things going with you?" I'm like, "Ah, I'm fine. It's no problem. It's just a day at the office." But the balance of work in this industry is a challenge. But it's a privilege that I am proud to participate in this industry. I'm I've worked really hard in the last 20 plus years on my career, and so it's important to me to be successful and to help my players and my staff be successful and to be a part of a community that and have an impact there. And my kids are along for the ride. They absolutely love it. My son is going to go, he just started his senior year today. So we're looking at colleges, and they both love being a part of what I do. So they're around a lot. They're at every match. My son is red hatting on Sunday or on Saturday, and he's been working on the grounds crew this summer. So he's learning kind of all the things on the inside. Um, but I think that is one of the problems that comes with this career is not always being able to prioritize the personal stuff and being able to take care of yourself because you inherently are a person who wants to take care of everybody else when you're in this industry and give everyone the best experience possible. And so being at matches on match day is great. It's why I do what I do, so I can sit and enjoy watching other families have a wonderful day at the field. I can watch our players and their families come visit. I can see our partners enjoy the day with their clients and their employees. And then on Sunday, hopefully I'll get a few moments of rest. My daughter has a game tomorrow morning before our game here at the stadium, so it'll be a little bit of a back and forth, but just got to multitask.
Yeah. I mean, there is a that there is self-care in that and the enjoyment of being fulfilled through
Yeah,
the experience of seeing everything come together, everyone taking care of everyone, stuff like that. I mean, it was interesting because that's one of the conversations I had in Spokane was that going to a game is self-care for fans, right? Doing
absolutely.
community and stuff like that. So learning a lot, learning a lot. Uh,
Yeah.
and hopefully, soon I want to, once we're working on sponsorship, we want to, do more in-person interviews and go to visit more stadiums and do stadium tours and uh, capture that content and share it to gain exposure online. So that's something exciting, and hopefully we come to Union Omaha soon.
Come to a
Um,
match anytime. You're more than welcome.
um, with saying that, can you share a transformative partnership or community initiative that significantly elevated Union Omaha's impact and visibility, and what made it so successful?
So I think there's been many. And in my short time here, I would say that our partnership with Centris Federal Credit Union has been very holistic. So they are a very they're a wonderful community partner. They're the fun of our kit. But beyond that, they are very engaged in the community. So they're very excited about having their customers and their employees experience Union Omaha. They're all in with being a part of events. They're all in with having Hoot come to any of their branches to have folks experience Union Omaha, hand out tickets, whatever it might be. We did our kit reveal last year at their main branch, and the community loved it. It's kind of in central Omaha, and it's a beautiful space. But to be able to have our supporters come out there and kind of make the connection between their company, but also their employees and their people and their culture within that space, and how they work together with what Union Omaha is creating and the community that we're creating has been great. I mean, they're always out here supporting us. They come to all of our events. They're the presenting sponsor for our Hispanic Heritage Night on Saturday night. So they've got a huge group of tickets that they have, given to all of their customers and their employees to come out and enjoy the night. So I would say Centris has been an amazing partner, both from a sponsorship perspective, but also from a community perspective, and it has helped us reach a different audience in that way. And then, we've also been working on a lot of smaller, maybe not hugely transformative, but a lot of smaller community relationships and continuing to build what we have from a nonprofit perspective, but also from relationships within the youth leagues in Omaha. So that is still, it's a moving target. We need to do better, and we're continuing to work on that and work on getting the soccer players and their families to come be a part of a Union Omaha. But I would say like the North Star Foundation, Boys and Girls Club, Girls Inc., the places that we're starting to create personal relationships with those foundations and see how we can impact each other is extremely important. And we're going to continue to focus on those as we grow, because being a part of the community is the most important thing for us. It can't just be wins and losses. We have to be a part of everything that happens in Omaha.
Amazing. With saying that, we are talking about the passion industry, the sports industry, and from, I specifically think about one person personally. It's hard to get into. I mean, he shared his stories of applying to hundreds of jobs, doing, 50 interviews and getting close with 10, and then, the whole landscape of how hard it is to get into sports. What advice would you give to individuals that want to get into the front office space of sport, the passion industry?
So I think what's important is that having the skill sets available to you to create connections and communicate. I think what sometimes can be lacking is they love the sport so much, but they don't have the perspective of understanding that it is a business too. So if I had a front office full of soccer fans, I don't know that our front office would be able to run as effectively as it needed to be, but we can have both, right? You can have people who are talented both in communications and sales, but people who are willing to get out there and make the personal connections in whatever department they're in is super important. I would say the other really important thing, very similar to what we just talked about, is having the wherewithal and the understanding that the sports industry is an all-in industry. It's very difficult to have time off. It's very difficult to expect your weekends to be free. So if you're not fully committed to those types of hours, it's very difficult to be in the industry. And we see that a lot. And we'll hire folks that this is what they want to do. And then once they're actually in the office and they realize that it's not nearly as glamorous as they think it might be, that they find out it's not, they'd rather just be a fan. They'd rather just have that love for the game and be at the matches and experience it from that side rather than the business side, because sometimes it loses some of its shine when you see it from this side of the chair. So wanting to be in the industry, but also having that commitment to understanding the time that it takes, and the challenges throughout the career that there might be, in order to stick with it. And especially at entry level and even beyond, not every team is making the money that people think they're making. And so professional sports is not a career to jump into if you want to make six figures ever or off the bat. And it's not as frequent as most would think unless you're up at the MLS level or in the NBA or the NFL. Like it's very grassroots, it's very hard work. And we work for everything that we have here. And so I think that is important to understand too, is that jumping into a sports career, you're not going to be probably making the salary that maybe your other friends who are in accounting or medicine or any other career that has regular hours. So it doesn't always add up the way people think it's going to.
For sure. For me personally, I gotta say everything has pros and cons, but from all my experiences, I've played for 20 years. I mean, from grassroots to semi-pro levels, in England, France, Canada, US, and off the field, I gotta say I've really loved it. I mean, from all my experiences and the work that I'm currently doing in it, for me, it just doesn't feel like work. It's just so fun. And from some of the people that I've connected to on the front office space have said the same thing. It doesn't feel like work. It feels like fun, even though it's hard work. It's a lot of work.
Yep,
But I think that's the key thing is to you'll hear people say it, but for it, it's always a bonus if you love what you're doing. Uh,
absolutely.
with saying that, my last question is reflecting on your personal leadership journey, what mindset shifts and lessons have been pivotal to your success, and what advice would you offer to aspiring sports executives navigating today's industry?
Okay. Well, I several things. I would say that communication is key. And I find myself realizing that more and more, that I spend a lot more time than I ever anticipated, um, hearing people's perspectives and then problem solving the best way to get everyone the best result. It might not be 100% what everybody needs, but finding a path to at least getting everybody on the same page. And I think that the more people understand the path to success is together and compromising and hearing and listening what others have to say, because problems can be solved simply by listening to somebody else's perspective, and not thinking that you always have the answers. So I usually come to things with a pretty open mind, as it relates to challenges, so that we can be problem solving and not problem creating or solution finding, because and I say this nearly every day in the office, is we're not saving lives. And as long as we keep that in mind, that we can keep a positive attitude, and try and give everyone the best experience possible. Um, as long as the place isn't on fire, we're good. Like we can manage through the issues. We can find solutions to problems, and sometimes we'll get it right and sometimes we won't. And we can deal with the fallout. Because in the end, we're in the sports industry, and I'm not specific to, injuries and things that happen on the pitch, but as it relates to the business, we can usually find a solution in the end to a problem, in the best way possible through communication. And I think for me, that has been a huge learning piece, both as an executive, but as a female executive, is that I always have to come into things at a certain level of calm, um, because I usually have to be the calmest in the room. I know that a lot of times it's expected that a female would be more emotional or would be more high energy, but a lot of times I'm the one that has to keep everybody kind of, at an even keel, and pull everybody down from the emotion, and let's look at it logically, um, with logic and reason. A lot of times is what I say, to just be solutions oriented. So I think that has been, through my career, had to kind of always been learning. I've always been learning about the communication aspect of things so that I can best get my message across. Um, so yeah, that might be one of the ways. There's lots of things. I'm learning all the time. I say that to everybody every day. It's like I've learned something new every single day, and it's been great because it's been a new challenge to be in this chair, and that's why I took the job, because I knew I'd been in my previous position for 8 years, and it was wonderful and great, and I loved that experience. But I needed new challenges, and so this has created a whole lot of new challenges.
Yep. Well, thank you for sharing, Alexis. So please send my thank you to Gary. I knew this
I
was
will.
be a great interview, but it went on my expectations. This was amazing, and I think our viewers, whether it's fans, existing soccer executives, new individuals getting into the space, etc., will get a great perspective from this podcast. And with saying that, Alexis, once again, I truly appreciate you taking the time for joining us on the One Soccer Nation podcast.
Thanks for having me. It's been great. I appreciate it.